who are considering intentional product manager, intentional job search. What did an average week look like for you in your job search before we crossed paths?
How is this going to really help me at my experience level? IJS is an ecosystem that's initially highly structured, but then helps you leverage that structure to whatever unstructured environment you want as you go about for your job search, in particular with product management. Yeah.
So, a lot of the people who are listening to this episode, they are considering intentional product manager, intentional job search. So, to begin with, let them find out who they're speaking to. So, tell us a bit about yourself.
Sure. My name is Sumeet Maniar, and I have over 25 years of experience, largely in B2B and B2B2C. And most of my career has been in product management, but the earlier part of my career was business development. And I've worked in early stage to late stage and even larger companies. And from a startup perspective, I've grown products from inception all the way to exits. And I've also worked with many mature products and scaled them to additional tens of millions of revenues. And in particular of late, the last 4 out of 5 startups, I've leveraged some capabilities of AI and ML in the product solution. And that's a little bit about my background.
Amazing. Just for everyone, note, Sumeet is just being incredibly modest. He's literally been CEO of companies. He's been chief product officer of companies. You can look through his LinkedIn. He's highly accomplished. He's just being very modest here.
Okay.
So, let me just share that. Let's go back before you joined us. Yeah. What did an average week look like for you in your job search before we crossed paths?
I think the average week kind of was a little ad hoc, scattershot. Probably typical of most people, I think, that come across, even with people with experience like myself. And I was keeping myself busy with some smaller projects, but at the same time, I was just, I'd see a posting, kind of respond, or just do a little bit of network. So it was largely unstructured environment. That's probably the best way I can describe it.
Yeah, I know. I hear it all the time about lack of structure about the job search because there's so much that could be done.
Yeah.
So what made you, what was like the biggest challenge or what caused you to seek out some sort of solution?
I wasn't aware that a couple things. So I come from a background where engineering and where product manager roles didn't even exist. And then a lot of times then as product manager roles, I would start hiring them myself as being a CEO, but I didn't realize that it was a much more formalized ecosystem. And through that nexus, one of my colleagues, and he was reporting to me, Sumeet, you should look into this program. And I was like, it didn't even occur to me there's programs that could help product managers look for product roles. And so then I took a look into your program, and he was already a member of this. And so then it struck a light bulb because it's, okay, there's something I could be accountable to, because once you become a leader and stuff, you become like a T, right? You're verticalized, but then you're looking at so many things on a peripheral. And so I think getting back to that structured versus unstructured is, okay, there could be some segment here I can leverage. And then I spoke with I think he gave me an introduction, Alex, who has joined your organization. He said, just check it out because it's giving him a lot of structure. So through that nexus, I think I spoke with you and then BJ, and that gave me the confidence. It's, I need a little bit of a structured organization on my job search component of it. Not knowing all these little details like how you better articulate yourselves given the frameworks that have evolved in product management.
Love it. And Alex, I'm not going to mention his last name because I don't think he wants to be publicly identifiable. Yeah. Maybe not, but he's awesome. And I'm so glad he's been a star in our job search program. We've often, he like takes things, he gets them done, and then we've always showcased that to other people. So I'm glad he brought you in. That's amazing.
It's a mentee teaching the mentor because he was reporting to me 2 levels before.
So, okay, we're back there. And now you're like, oh, cool, this is this program. What were the hesitations you had about joining the intentional job search program?
I mean, initial hesitation maybe was just a little more transactional, aside from the cost, but then
Yeah.
you understand the value and everything. So that was one. But I think the initial hesitation was like, how is this going to really help me at my experience level, right? And so I was trying to quantify that a little bit better.
So you want to make sure this is for you. So
Yeah, I wanted to make sure. Yeah. Oh, yeah. This was for me. And then two, I was confident this was definitely for people with 5, 8, or even 3, or newbies switching into product all the way up to 10 to 15 years of experience. But I wasn't sure about those with 15 or more years of experience. So that was the main rubric I was trying to solve.
yeah. Okay, great. What pushed you over the edge to join us?
I think what pushed me to the edge was the structured content that you guys had developed. And like I said, even though I've worked at some larger orgs, I was like, wow, I didn't know there were all these details of how do you interview specifically with Amazon, or how do you answer those questions with Meta. Before I would get interviews at Meta, I was just like, I'm just going to wing it because this is what I didn't know you had to wing it, right? I didn't know there's a structured methodology in all these processes. And product management as an industry has become more formalized. And
Yeah.
I think that's what also convinced me in the structure and how you communicate more effectively from the nuances of speaking like a PM, even though I've been a PM.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, love it. So continuing the journey. So okay, awesome. You joined us. If you remember, like first phase of the program, what were like some of the aha moments that you had when you dove into our work together?
I think one of the first aha moments is simplicity. And even being an executive, you like things in short emails, but then that first, even the basic building blocks, just tell me about yourself. And
Yeah,
it's very powerful, even at the executive level. It's, well, if I had my investor pitching to VC's hat on, they always say you should have your 30-second elevator pitch. And I think that literally from the TMAY, at first I was skeptical. I was like, I feel like I need to say more because I've done so much, but then understanding that process and nuance, let the listener then probe and just be more impactful, less is more. So I think that was one of the first key takeaways.
I especially as you talk about the aspect of more senior folks and in the program, like that's one of the things we see often is there is so much varied experience to choose from that it becomes a lot more of like curation of editing and being like, this is the essence that we want to communicate.
Yeah.
While sometimes with folks with 3 years of experience, you're dealing with, hey, is there enough here?
Yeah.
Is there a side project we need to leverage? While in this case, it's much more of the curation aspect.
Yeah, definitely the curation. I do recall now going through the iteration because I was coming up with so many experiences, like first 3 TMAYs because of, hey, I've done this much in this area and this much, and then it gradually massaged itself into one more cohesive TMAY. And tell me about yourself for those who are not knowing acronym, but then you could be just nuanced in the sub stories that you can explain that, and that becomes your more focus depending on whatever role you're looking for.
Yeah, yeah. Great. Really good insights. Okay, then tell us more. Tell us about your story of landing this new role and what are like the main things you went through in your journey to be able to make that happen.
So I think main thing in the journey, and I would articulate for those who are listening to this, is I kept myself busy with the 2 part-time fractional roles. So it did help with the full-time job, but if you have the time and ability, and if you're working full-time, is just take 2 weeks off or 3 weeks off, and or just do 100% the first month, just focus on what this program has, because that'll move you ahead much faster and quicker. And namely, getting the cadence of doing the reaching out to people. And I think that could have worked better for me if I had done that sooner. I slowly got into that systematic process, meaning once you get your stories and how you articulate yourself and start doing some of the mock interviews, you have to start doing your pipeline development, meaning reaching out to your network and doing that much more proactively. And I think that will definitely help. So that helps. So for my journey for landing this job, to answer it, it was part of that process in the sense that in this case, for this role, I saw a job description that fit something exactly that I had done at a small stage startup level. And I was like, wow, this is an opportunity to do it at a Series C to Series D type company, which was my target, like Series C, D, and above. And I just come from an environment of super early stage. And I was like, okay. So I followed the steps that Will or you had for the LinkedIn process. And I found coincidentally there was someone from my business school who was there. I had no idea what this company was. So I sent a note to her, and then based on that, she did reply. It did take 7 to 8 days.
Hmm?
That started the ball rolling with respect to she liked what I had to say, and then she immediately put me in touch through Slack. So it went directly to the hiring managers via their internal Slack saying, hey, you got to speak to this person. And that's how I got the interviews.
Yeah. I mean, I do the business school connection help. It would have been a lot faster had you gone to Kellogg instead of Booth. Just for others, it's a joke I
Chicago,
play with
Northwest.
anyone from. We have rival business schools, and so I always play that joke. But coming back to it, so I did see, at some point you had this major shift on leveraging your network, and you like went all out, and you obviously had a very awesome network, which a lot of senior folks had, and then you leveraged it all. Tell us more about what eventually led to that and how you made the most out of it.
I think one of the things at our level, and I think a lot of people feel this, is it could be a little bit of ego. You don't want to, or vulnerability. You don't want to tell everyone you're looking for a job. And it was interesting. I tested it out, like I A/B tested just in conversations. Like
Love it.
I just told them, and then they said, Sumeet, you should just tell me you're looking for a role instead of trying to bounce around. And so I think that told me, and then some of the coaches or some of the stuff, there's just, even you said it, people are out there to help you, but if they don't know what they need to help you with, they can't help you. So then I just became bashful about it because I was afraid I'm going to look weak. It's like I'm out of not fully gainfully employed. And, it was just self-censorship. And then I would just say, hey, I'm looking for this. And people they knew how to react. And that would immediately say, hey, Sumeet, you should talk to this person. Before it was just like, hey, what are you up to? I'm doing this, keeping myself busy. But, then it doesn't come out as forcefully in people's mind that, hey, this person is looking. So I think when you plant that seed and kind of like marketing, Northwestern, you reinforce that message and then people gradually will come back to you. It may take a week or two or even a month later. It's, hey, Sumeet, I remember you're looking for this and this came into my mind. So I think that's what turned the faucet when I saw people telling me that.
Yeah, and just for folks who are not in the program, Sumi did a wonderful post inside our program, like sharing the lessons, and this was one of the ones, which was network from day one, where the moment you have a good tell me about yourself, and I like to call it like increase your luck surface area. It's not that you'll reach out for something and immediately it will click, but it will happen.
Yeah, I like that terminology, surface area. And you have this objective, try to pick 100 people or however you want and try to do do it in a methodical format and it'll be successful. There was another senior IGESer, and I don't remember his name, but he told me this strategy. He picked 4 companies and that's all he wanted to work for. And then he reached out to about 15 to 25 people for each company. And then he was able to get interviews with one of them and then a second one. And it really works. So, but it goes to show like if you do that pipeline of just reaching out, even information interviews, it does work. But you have to do that legwork, especially at the senior level, to get that because I think you had qualified like L7, L8 roles. Those type of roles, you have to know the L9 managers. And
Mm.
often L8 roles don't get published, so it's much harder. So you have to do that networking to find those type of positions.
Yeah. And even whether that's large companies or especially true for startups,
Yeah.
like it's even harder for those to get published. Awesome. So, any other things do you want to share about your experience in landing the role? Then I have some questions for you about advice for others.
So in my experience in landing the roles, yes, it's going to be tough,
Yeah.
and in the sense that, there were other interviews that I went through that I became a finalist, and two or three times it was down to me and one other person, and I lost out. And I think you just have to keep the positive attitude, and it's easy to get dejected. But
Hmm.
I think through this journey, there is enough people and mock groups or subgroups you can interact with. You become friends with other people going through the process. So I think that's helpful. So it's kind of like your cohort group or you can rely to for help. So I think that's helpful and be active in that in the sense you could form your own group of three or four if you want. The program also encourages you to do that as well.
Love it. Love it. So tell us more about this role. What's the role? How did you end up there? Any surprises along the way?
So this role it's a leadership role. It's a head of AI and data products, and it's at a Series C company, and it's called League.com, and there are about 400 people or so. So it was in my target area. Because I came from an early stage environment for the last 5, 7 years, and I wanted to target Series C and above. So it hit all those checkboxes, and the role is a greenfield opportunity in the sense that this company has significant revenue and they're about to do their Series D raise. And they have this huge arsenal of data, which they self admitted they didn't have any AI, which is fantastic. So it's another greenfield opportunity, an opportunity to make an impact. So that also was of high interest and based on my background and opportunity to really leverage AI in multiple facets in this. And the other aspect of this role was it turned out to be a 14-week interview process, and initially it was slated for 4 interviews, but I think the role was really critical for the company. So each week board members starting interviewing and then all these other parameters. So this role is reporting to a CPO, CTO, and it's also board and customer facing. So it's really existential for this company to really pivot towards AI. So I think that's why it ended up being a 3-month process.
And
I
I guess
almost
it was.
gave up because I ran out of ideas. Like, what do you tell a company after so many interviews, right? But I guess they just wanted to make sure they admitted this never has happened before and we don't think it'll happen again, but we're at this critical junction point that
Yeah.
we really
And
need to propel the company to the next level.
that's awesome. Congratulations on the role.
Yeah, thanks.
Now I'm going to ask you just some advice for people considering IGS, Intentional Product Manager. First of all, how would you describe it in your own words?
I think IJS is an ecosystem that's initially highly structured, but then helps you leverage that structure to whatever unstructured environment you want as you go about for your job search, in particular with product management. I think if you're a newbie not knowing product management, or if you're an engineer considering product management, then this is also quite excellent. I think also for experienced, up to the 10, 12, 15 year, it's a good opportunity to recalibrate yourself in how you articulate yourself better. And I think that's the best way I can describe it. And then beyond that, same thing. And that's in a nutshell. So there's an ecosystem of coaches, then also other people who are going through the journey together. And that becomes your, what is it, group that can help you propel in helping you land a role.
Love it. Love it. I love the ecosystem term and using that here. And then last but not least, what if somebody's considering the program right now? What advice would you have for them?
It's a commitment. And just like anything in life or your job, if you give yourself ad hoc effort, the results are going to be ad hoc. But likewise, if you just be structured, and the only thing I would say if I had to redo this program is really focus on that first month and then really be dedicated and custom breaking out like 2 hours a day systematically and then just stick to it. No holds barred. No one can interrupt you on it. And I think you'll come out much more successful, quicker and faster. I think that's the lesson I've learned is, okay, it did take me 12 to 15 months or maybe 16 months, but that's the nature of the level. But I think I could have maybe compressed it down to 9 months if I was really aggressive.
Yeah. I love the advice. Like, start strong, put in those
Yeah.
2 hours a day, because
Yeah.
then that there's just compounded return at the end of it.
Yeah, and even if you're working and you have those meetings that push it off, but then you got to make that time block and you just got to make that commitment to yourself. And otherwise, you'll go sideways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love it. Awesome. Sumit, thank you so much for doing this. I highly appreciate it. Congratulations again on this awesome new role.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks.
And the role is totally in a league of its own.
Yep.
Okay.
All right.